Okay, I just want to start by saying thank you so much for taking the time out to sit down and chat with me. I suppose we should start right at the beginning. How did your love of performing begin?
Uh, I was just always, for me, I was just always one of those sort of class clowns, the one that wanted to be at the center of attention. Yeah, right from a really, really early age, I just wanted to be the one that people laughed at, and that people looked at, and was the center of attention. And then, yeah, and so from primary school, being
Hmm.
involved in school plays, and then involved in lots of um yeah, and then lots of like school
Yeah.
stuff, really. So yeah, right from the beginning of time, I've just always wanted to make people laugh and play.
Hmm. And then from there, then obviously most recently you starred in King Arthur. So how would you describe that show to someone who hasn't seen it?
Well, it was quite a journey to get from that love of performing at that point to King Arthur. Yeah, that was quite a journey. So yeah, King Arthur is just a sort of a fast-paced comedy version of the King Arthur tales,
Mhm.
told told through the eyes of sort of three hapless squires who are sort of struggling to exist in the Arthurian world.
Hmm.
Yeah, really fast-paced, really high energy. Singing, dancing, acrobatics,
Hmm.
general, stupidity and slapstick.
Hmm.
Just a really bonkers fun 2 hours.
Yeah. So in terms of sort of rehearsing that, because it relies a lot on sort of physical comedy and staging and props. So what was the rehearsal process for that show like?
Uh, Hard work,
Hmm.
really hard work. But we're really, really forensic about comedy,
Mhm.
and really forensic about the processes behind comedy. So, we really, really work each of those moments, so the slapstick moments, the physical comedy moments, the routines that exist within it, like we rehearse them within an inch of their life, because timing is everything,
Mhm.
with those sorts of things. Also, we're never really 100% sure, like what is the funniest way of doing it.
Mhm.
What's the funniest way to tell that joke, or what's the funniest way to do that routine.
Mhm.
When you sort of design the routine, you don't really know all the answers. And it is really just about going, okay, if we're doing this at that time, is that funnier than doing this at that time?
Mhm.
And what we have a really good gauge on now, as sort of quite experienced makers of theatre and experienced makers of comedy, what we have a really good gauge on now um, is the is which one is the most funny.
Yeah.
We can go, that's it, and then you've just got to try and recreate
Mhm.
that every time. And it's the difference, it's often the difference between saying a line, right on the bat, straight after another line, picking up the cue, or
Mhm.
sometimes it's about leaving a little pause there. Sometimes it's about leaving a little pause afterwards to let the audience in.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's about just rattling through it and making sure that the laugh comes at the end. So yeah, we're really like forensic about that stuff within the rehearsal room to make sure that the audience are getting the best out of what we do.
Mhm.
So yeah, so we just we fill it up, but we also just it's about offers. So as actors, we work really collaboratively with the director,
Mhm.
and the co-writer, because we co-write and direct together. So it's really about us as actors sort of making those offers,
Yeah.
constantly. And then the director, we've got a really lovely relationship with the director where, if it isn't working, like it's
Mhm.
like, no, try again, try again, try again, try again.
Mhm.
I think, because we're both on that, there's nothing, we're not precious
Mhm.
about our offers. We're not precious
Yeah.
about what we do. I feel like we're just in it to make sure that the comedy is the best it can
Mhm.
be. It's as clear as it can be for the audience, and that the audience experience is the one that's the most fun.
Mhm.
Yeah, so
So you
but it's
mentioned, oh,
it's a
sorry.
it's a laugh basically as well.
You mentioned obviously you co-write it as well, and put it together collaboratively. Were
Yeah.
there things that how do you come up with some of those ideas? Because there are some very outlandish parts of the show. How do you come up with those sorts of wild ideas and think this will work or this won't?
Uh, so I think we just throw all our ideas, as mad as they are,
Hmm.
we just throw them all in. And I think actually what was really nice with this project is that often those sort of first ideas that come out,
Hmm.
those first ideas, they come out and they hit the paper, and then over time they become something very different.
Hmm.
But we threw some really quite big outlandish ideas at this one, and actually they sort of like first ideas, oh, why don't we just do that at the beginning of the show, and
Hmm.
like, and normally we would talk ourselves out of doing it over a period of time. And actually within this, we sort of like, I don't know, there was just a sort of really mischievous sense within the room to just go, oh no, let's just do it, let's just do it, let's push it
Hmm.
a little bit harder, let's push the envelope a little bit more, see what we can do. Because yeah, and actually that's not a luxury that always, it's always really difficult, to
Hmm.
maintain that like idea of first idea culture.
Hmm.
Because often the first ideas are the best ones. They're like the ones that come to you, the spontaneous ones.
Hmm.
And actually, as you sort of grow as an artist, I feel like you become less confident in those
Hmm.
first ideas. You sort of think that every idea has to be like worked through and analyzed and detailed.
Hmm.
When you're sort of at the beginning of your career, you live on the first ideas.
Hmm.
That's a brilliant idea, let's just do it. Like that, like
Yeah.
that happens at the beginning of your careers. And then like 15 years on, 16 years on, like we are, you start to go, oh yeah, but you analyze a lot about how it works.
Hmm.
What is it? And you're using all of that experience that you have over that 15 years to sort of dissect it all.
Hmm.
And actually sometimes, you're better off throwing caution to the wind and just like trying to go, okay, that's the first idea, maybe it is brilliant, and maybe we can just go with it and trust in
Hmm.
it. And so yeah, we had a lot of that this time. And yeah, and I think that we wanted to find a way within the story, a sort of framework within the story to be, or not the story, because there isn't, yeah, there is a
Yeah.
sort of story, but there's also not really a story. Is that we didn't want to be bogged down by narrative, by big
Hmm.
long narrative arcs, like that there had to be like a beginning, a middle, and an end,
Hmm.
and we had to go on a journey. And there sort of is that, but it is very loose. And actually,
Hmm.
what we wanted to really focus on was a framework that just gave us a vessel to be able to explore comedy,
Hmm.
to be able to like do a routine, or to be able to throw a load of slapstick in and like it not feel like the audience are like missing out on something
Yeah.
important from a narrative perspective.
Hmm.
So yeah, so the framework that we created, although like actually is quite complex, it enabled us to be able to, the audience not to get lost if we go off
Hmm.
on a tangent and we play a silly game or we do a silly routine or whatever. We can
Hmm.
the audience can still follow the,
Yeah.
the chaos. And yeah, and it is just, it just lives in a really chaotic place, which is really fun.
So on top of the singing, dancing, routines, you also multi-role, which is a key part I've actually mentioned within the story itself.
Yeah.
So was that always the intention, was to have that sort of multi-rolling going on at the same time?
Yeah, it's been like, it's like been the 100% the focus of like what we do.
Hmm.
Like we yes, from the moment that we started making comedy, narrative based comedy. When we first started off, we were sort of quite anarchic, buffoon clowning.
Hmm.
But as soon as we sort of like ventured into the narrative work, which is what we've sort of
Hmm.
built our careers on over the last sort of nearly 15 years, really. We've always multi-rolled.
Hmm.
There used to be four of us in the cast. There's now three of us in the cast, and then so yeah, being able to tell story and be able to do that, like, and then the challenges that come from that are often the really
Hmm.
fun. Is where the fun stuff happens.
Yeah.
Like, oh, two people playing the same character, and how do they do that? And
Hmm.
oh, we need four people in this scene. How do we do that? And so you end up with dummies, or you end up with
Hmm.
inflatable characters, or whatever it might
Yeah.
be. But those things are all part of the game and part of the
Hmm.
fun. But multi-rolling's always been at the heart of what we've done, and as sort of physical comedy actors, I
Yeah.
think it's something that we like we really throw ourselves into, to make sure that, you know, not just the voice and the physicality is different, but, you know, you actually, you can become invested in the characters, despite the fact that it's just three people playing all these characters. You still want to believe in the characters. You still want to be invested in the characters. Because the joke of like me, for example, being dressed as a lady in a show, like you get the laugh at the beginning,
Yeah.
and then we might mine it for a wig comes off, or you might mine it for something else. But ultimately, the like you still need to be invested in that character. You still need to be invested in the stakes of that character. So, we play it, despite the fact that it's silly, and we still sort of play it for the stakes, and we sort of play it for the realism, and so that you become invested in those characters if you need to be invested in those characters.
As someone with a very limited acting experience, I can't imagine having to switch that quickly between the very different roles. So what does that actual transition feel or is like backstage? Have you got is there a process to go through?
Yeah, it's all just in a second,
Right.
like costume really helps.
Yeah.
And then for us, it's about, it's the physicality, and I know, we're, that's at the heart of what we do, like the character comes from, from your sort of inside of your physical nature, and I think once you put that physicality on, the costume on, like the voice comes, you're just in it, like,
Yeah.
you're just in it and you're playing it. And I think and then it's also about, the actor thing of, of just like listening, like it's Guinevere in that situation, and you're listening and you're sort of behaving as her, or it's, or it's Bertolac, or but you're listening in those, you're listening and you're in that scene with the other person. And I don't know, it's sort of quite instinctive, you're just like sort of in and out of costumes, switching it. We're quite fortunate with this show, like the positionings on the set,
Yeah.
I mean that, like, I'm in that area, like I'm Morgana, I'm in that area, I'm Guinevere,
Yeah.
like, so your positionings in the set help to sort of
Hmm.
but again, it doesn't look like it when you're watching an elaborate show, but it's rehearsed within the inch of its life. Like we just, every scene is drilled, 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 drilled. Like, we really put the time in, to making, it work. And the pace is so important. It needs to like rattle along.
Okay.
Like, so it needs to make. We need to. We almost don't want the audience to have sort of time to breathe. It's got to hit at that pace. So so I think you just when you've undergone that level of rehearsal, you're just sort of instinctively in it.
So if obviously if this sounds like something some people would be interested in, where can people stay up to date with London Vet?
Well, they can come and see our shows. We sort of tour all over the country. King Arthur is still doing some more touring into next. We'll be touring through next year. We also bring out like more out of our repertoire for next year as well. So so we're touring Dracula and Treasure Island as well next year throughout the year, which is really exciting. We'll have three different shows on the road. And we just tour all over the country. So the best way is to go onto our website, www.lenaverbet.com. Have a look at our upcoming tour dates. We do a big panto down in Exeter, which we co-write with and co-produce with the Exeter Northcott, which is very much more a traditional panto. We do that in Exeter every year. That's running, I think, from the 29th of November to the 6th of January this year. And that just that just sort of and that gives us a little vessel to explore panto in a slightly different way. But that's really, really fun. So there's plenty of opportunities to come and get a little flavour of Le Navigat and enter our little chaotic world of physical comedy.
I'll put all the links in the description so people can just scroll down and click away. I also know there's
Amazing.
Instagram, which we'll link in there as well. My final question,
Yeah.
What advice do you have for new performers looking to get into the industry?
Uh, do everything.
Mm-hmm.
Try everything. Uh, like not. I feel like there's often a sort of sense where people, young people go, "Oh, I'm maybe better than that," or I'm, you're
Mm.
not. Like, just try everything, and put yourself out there and do it, whether it's, amateur, whether it's professional, whether it's community options,
Mm.
anything that you can do to get experience. Experience makes a good performer.
Mm.
Like training definitely makes a good performer, going to drama school, going to going and doing courses and qualifications and all of those things, they help you to build your like sort of toolkit and your, your understanding and your knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
But experience, real experience, is where you will properly learn. Experience in front of an audience is where you really build up your toolkit. And if you,
Mm.
especially if you want to do physical comedy, especially if you want to do comedy, it's really about like getting out there
Yeah.
and do it. Like people assume, I think often, they watch our shows and it's like three silly boys just messing around on stage sometimes. Like uh like good comedy actors are actually really hard to find.
Mm-hmm.
People who really like understand the nuances of how to deliver comedy
Mm.
characters. And them like and them to have stakes and for you to be invested in them, but also for them to be very silly and to be very funny.
Yeah.
It's actually not an easy skill set. And the reason that we've learned that skill set is because we've done thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of
Mm-hmm.
shows. In the street, in village halls, in now, fortunately, in some of like the most beautiful theaters in the,
Mm.
in the country. But we did our time, out on the streets, in festivals,
Mm.
in other countries, touring in Mexico and Spain and Italy and, Germany, and building up that sort of knowledge base.
Yeah.
But also it's about seeing other work. It's about going to the theater.
Mm.
It's about going and seeing street theater. It's about going and just engaging in all types of performance, because it's that like inspires,
Mm.
that's actually really inspiring, and really exciting.
Oh, amazing. So I'll end the same way I started, just by saying thank you so much for taking the time out to sit down and chat with me. As I said, I'll put all the links in the description so people can scroll down and click away. But thank you so much, and I shall speak to you soon.
Yeah, thanks, Rhys. Take care. All the best, mate. Bye bye.
Bye.